Hey everybody, it's Andrew from Snakeworks, and this is the first snake I ever purchased. This is Mr. Sprinkles. She, it's actually a she, even though the vet told me it was a he, is a cinnamon pastel. And obviously when I saw her patterns, I just had to have her. Beautiful snake. She's been with me for like 10 plus years now. I think I should have done things differently. Oops, sorry, girl. After purchasing her, and I'm going to talk about that in this video about how to design your own breeding program, or even if you're just collecting, maybe things that make more sense just in case you want to breed in the future. So this is a cinnamon pastel ball python. Now, when I bought this animal, I probably should have gone out and made the second purchase if I wanted to breed, which at that point I was not going to breed, another pastel animal to breed to this animal to create super pastels, but that's not what I did. What I did do, and this is not the same animal that I bought, is buy a Mojave. So this Mojave is one I bred here. This is a Mojave female, double het albino pied. So that's years after purchasing the first Mojave. I've bred the original Mojave a bunch of times. But again, now I have two females as my first two snakes, and they don't really jive together very well, as in like the pastel and the cinnamon, the Mojave. Yeah, at that time, maybe you could have bred something to it, and created interesting animals. But I'll tell you, when I was walking around that show that I bought the Mojave at, there was a hypo Mojave I had looked at earlier. I was like, oh, maybe I should get that. And then when I went back, it was gone. Getting that hypo Mojave 10 plus years ago would have done wonders for my breeding program, because I would have been able to produce het hypos, and probably everything in this room right now would be hypo instead of het hypo, or just not having hypo in it at all. So that was a mistake I made. It was a difference of maybe a couple $100 at that point. And I regret that to this day, because I could have put myself way further along in all my hypo projects. So the third snake I bought was a pied. Not this pied. This is a Mojave pied. She is going to shed. The pied I purchased as my third animal was a male. So again, at that point, I wasn't really ready to breed yet, but that may have been a more solid purchase, because I was entering into the world of recessive genetics. So at this time, I have a pewter, I have Mojave, and I have the original pied male. I did not breed that original pied male for years. Now, by not breeding that original pied male, I'm not producing any het pieds that I could have used to further down the line produce visual pieds. Now, this is back when a pied was selling for easily, $650 was a good deal I think I got for my first male baby pied. And, they were regularly priced $750, $800 for really nice examples. So what did I do next, as I was pretty much collecting animals and not actually thinking about breeding? So the fourth snake I bought all those years ago was a honeybee. Again, not this honeybee. This is a honeybee het clown that I'm pairing this year with a trick hypo het clown, trying to make some trick hypo clowns. Anyways, again, this is a representation of that first hypo animal that I got into my collection. And that's when I learned about animals not eating, because the girl that I got just did not want to eat. She was a mouser for years. And that, again, set me back on any sort of hypo breeding. Again, at this point in time, I wasn't ready to breed. I'm just collecting. I have 4 animals, and I have a visual hypo and a visual pied at that point in time. So again, we have a representation of the animal that I would have originally bought as my 5th animal. This right here is a super pastel calico fire. I think she's going to shed. But I had purchased yeah, she's a little pink there. I had purchased a Firefly, which is a fire pastel. And I also purchased a pinstripe pastel. And I did breed those animals, and those animals' genes, well, you see the fire right here. And the pastel pinstripe are what made all my pinstripe tricks. Again, these are not recessive genes, and I was not breeding recessive genetics at that point, which again was setting me back. But then again, I'm in a collector's mindset at this point. I'm not looking to breed the newest, greatest things that are out there. And quite frankly, my opinion of breeding and racks at that point was vastly different than it is today. So if you're still watching this, you're probably wondering, why is this guy telling me about these animals that he first purchased? And it's because I should have done things differently if I wanted to breed. So you need to decide if you're going to be a collector or if you want to breed. You can change your mind at any time. It's fine, like I did. But be selective with what you purchase. Be selective with what you breed. Now I'm going to show you some things that I started to do when I really started to think about what I should be doing with these animals. So at some point, I actually purchased my first trick ball python from an online Facebook auction, back when you could sell animals on Facebook. And I sat on that animal for a while because I was told there was no super for trick. So another lesson learned there, don't listen to other people. If you really are desiring to do something, do it. Don't just accept that, oh yeah, this doesn't look good, or that's not going to work out well. If it's not documented thoroughly, be the first to do it. I waited for years to start breeding that trick back to other tricks, and that was a waste of my time. This right here is a Super Trick Cinnamon Calico. Really love the way the white's coming through there. And she's another holdback. But let's take a look at some other trick animals I produced when I started thinking about what I should be doing and not just collecting random animals. So while this just looks like a regular codominant trick pinstripe, this animal proved out as trick pinstripe double het albino tri-stripe this year. So I produced albino tri-stripes with her. Now, I could have just kept on breeding animals and producing good-looking tricks, but I really started to think about, like, what do I want to do 2 or 3 years down the line? And that meant that I had to produce animals I had already produced, like trick pinstripe, but I was going to hold them back because now there was a chance that they were going to be either single het or double het for animals that I had planned to make. I was starting to change my idea about what to do. I was planning ahead, and it's really paid off huge this year as I've made my first couple double visual recessive animals. So after years of just holding back possible hets, this is when things start to pay off. So what I have here is a visual double recessive animal. She just ate, so I don't want to pick her up, but that's an albino tri-stripe. That's cool. I'm very excited to produce something like this, and I would not have been able to produce something like this if I was just aimlessly pairing animals together with no plan for the future. And as luck would have it, I was actually able to produce 2 double visual recessive albino tri-stripes. This one's a little bit different. You can see it's a much more reduced pattern on the side. Stronger yellows. That other one was a little bit more pink still. So I'm not totally sure what I'm looking at here. I'm going to give it a couple more meals in the shed and then try to figure things out. But again, this is only possible because I decided to do something that did not give me instant gratification. I didn't produce snakes that I was going to immediately be able to sell. I had to hold them back. I held back a lot of normals, knowing that they might have the right genetics. And that delayed gratification is what produces what you see here today. Now, this is a result of another double visual recessive project that I've been working on for a few years. This is a hypo clown. I produced 3 of them this year, probably holding back these 2 females I produced. But I am, again, beyond ecstatic to be able to produce double visual recessives. It just pays to plan. And that's the point of this whole video, is knowing that you can create beautiful animals, but you need to plan ahead. So let's talk about what's coming up next. So this is another holdback female. This is a trick pastel pinstripe, het clown, possible het hypo. So I've held back several girls with these genetics, as well as a male visual trick hypo het clown, in the hope of producing super trick hypo clowns at some point next year. Sorry, she got away from me for a second. I'm raising up an animal that some people might find rather unremarkable or have a low value to it, because I know what I want. I know that the visual double recessive trick, super trick hypo clowns will be amazing, and that's my goal. I've set a goal for myself. I've stuck with it. I'm not going to just keep jumping around from different project to different project as I see things coming in front of me on a computer screen, wishing that I could be that person with that animal. It's not the way to go. All right, one last girl before we go. I think everyone knows this is my IMG het black-eyed anery. So I had originally purchased a male to pair with her, and then I got to thinking about, like, I'm kind of leaving the het black-eyed anery gene on the table by not pairing her with another at least het black-eyed anery. So I went ahead and I purchased a visual black-eyed anery hypo jungle motley possible het sharp boa woman caramel. So it's a lot to say there, but hopefully coming up, maybe not this winter, but in the spring, she'll be 4.5, almost 5 years old. The male will be 2.5 years old at that age, I think. And I'll be able to produce, if everything goes well, visual black devils, visual ghost devils, visual black-eyed aneries, and everything else will be het for black-eyed anery, because I'm using a visual black-eyed anery. I'm not going to end up with possible hets. So that's an important decision to think about too when you go to breed. Are you going to end up with a bunch of snakes that no one wants to buy because they're just holding a bungled mess of possible het genetics that no one's willing to pay money for? Anyways, I hope this video has helped you if you're thinking about breeding. That's some of the things I wish I knew years ago, and there's way more to learn, that's for sure. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good one.